Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Marshall Ramsey. I'm editor-at-large at Mississippi Today. This is the third episode of Mississippi Stories, and I think it's going to be a really cool one, and for many different reasons, because I think our guests today check a lot of different boxes for things for me that I love about Mississippi. You've got entrepreneurship, you've got love of community, you've got giving back, you've got literally pivoting and changing and resilience and just all kinds of great things. We've got with us the Chief Executive Officer of GLOW. We've got Hagan Walker's with us. Hagan, nice to see you. And of course, his business partner, we've got Anna Baker as well, who is officially the Vice President of Business Development. That's a cool title. I like that. That's actually better than Editor-at-Large. So I'm really jealous of both of you. But congratulations. Y'all have been in the middle of one success after another with GLOW. And it's been just such a fascinating story. And I wanted to talk to you today to get kind of your version of the story. And number one, I just want to let everybody know that your background is very special because you are literally about to move into a brand new building tomorrow. So thank you for visiting with us today, because I know how incredibly busy you are, but you're moving into the historic Rex Theater in downtown Starkville, where you're going to be able to do everything as part of your business, which to me is kind of amazing because I know where the Rex is. It's a really cool building. There must be a lot more space in it than I thought, because y'all are really pushing out a lot of product these days.
Yeah, so we're super excited. Yeah, forgive the background. We're actually in the midst of moving and packing boxes right now. So we're hoping to be in there by hopefully next Monday, moved in. We shall see if that works out. But yeah, the Rex Theater, a lot of people don't know what it is, actually. It sat vacant for decades right here on Main Street. And yeah, the whole back of it was partitioned off, but there's a massive theater in there. And it's going to be repurposed as office space and warehouse for us. So we're super excited.
So you've got room to be able to get trucks in and do the shipping and everything in one place. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And we're able to stay right here on Main Street, which is one of the biggest things that we wanted for, a small startup in a cool town like Starkville.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Anna.
I was just gonna say, I think staying on Main Street was really important to us. We shopped around a lot after graduation. I think we did what a lot of young people do. They look at other cities, they look at other states. And so I think we even toured some office space in Birmingham, looked in New Orleans, Chattanooga, Memphis, Jackson as well. And I think we knew wherever we went next was where we were gonna stay. And so we chose to stay here in Starkville. And as we've grown, we are obviously trying to compete with the brain drain issue of Mississippi and what other companies and cities have to offer. And one of those things is that it's very important that young people have a workplace culture and environment that they want to be in. And so as we've grown, we need a lot of space for fulfillment and production and shipping logistics. And so that has been incredibly restrictive because we start to quickly grow out of most of the spaces available on Main Street. And so we didn't want to split up our team. It was important to stay downtown in our community. And so the Rex Theater was really just the perfect situation and place at the perfect time.
Definitely. And I mean, I was amazed. I mean, it was like a $1.2 million renovation. So there was a lot of work to do, but it is that whole downtown area, and just watching it grow over the last 15 years. I mean, for people that have not been to downtown Starkville, it's really really got a cool vibe about it.
Yeah, and we're hoping to make it even a little bit cooler. So they've put the old, it's going to be rehashed exactly like it was when it opened in 1930. So
wow.
It has the old awning out front, real neon lights for the Rex Theater. And to be even cooler, Anna and I have this big thing about taking up prime real estate somewhere.
Yes.
And so we're filling this big building on Main Street with offices, which is something we always talk about not doing, but we're saving a little slice on the corner, and it's going to be a gelato shop.
Nice.
So we actually just finalized that, but something cool, something, eclectic that brings, some more liveliness to downtown.
Yeah, and it's era specific. It'll have the feel of the 1930s, like Mark Castleberry, who's doing the development. He's an amazing developer, and it just has this crazy attention to detail for things like that, particularly when he's renovating a historical property. And so he's made sure that all of that, he's really honoring the history of the building as well. And so we obviously were really excited about the building, but we were like, it's contradictory to everything we've ever said if we take up prime redeveloped real estate right on the corner of Main Street. So we're excited that it's going to still be something that the community can enjoy, as well as being a wonderful new office space for us.
Well, the timing couldn't be more perfect. Like I said, you just signed the deal with Sesame Street, which is incredibly huge. Do y'all just walk around and pinch yourselves just to go, I can't believe that I'm working. I mean, I'm a big addict when it comes to watching Shark Tank. And what y'all did was just blows anything, any deal anybody on Shark Tank ever could make away.
All right,
on
you're
that.
flattering us now, but
Yeah.
Now, that's pretty cool, I got to admit.
well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
Sesame Street thing, it's for sure, it's been the most exciting development that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Particularly being a young company, and neither of us expected to be working in early childhood development and make children's products. That's not what either of us did in school. And so to be such a young company and to work with a brand like Sesame Street, who's had just, over 50 years of this iconic image in pop culture and in so many families, and that's huge. When we first got the deal, they gave us access into their artwork database, and so when you open that up and you're looking at 50 years of design and the impact that that's had globally, that is a very sobering thing to do. So that's when the pinch me stuff comes back to me, is whenever I just remember just the sheer scope of Sesame Street and the impact that they've had. It's humbling and a real honor to get to work with them at all.
Just remember another Mississippian who made Sesame Street great.
No,
Jim
exactly.
Henson,
Yeah, exactly. We actually talk about things kind of coming full circle, from all those years ago to him creating some of the original Muppets, and then coming back to now, and we've kind of gotten the first licensing deal for some of the new Sesame Street characters and stuff. So it's really cool to kind of see that, that Mississippi connection there.
Yeah, and he still has so much influence. I was just going to say, when we were at their office in New York with Sesame Workshop, who is the nonprofit that owns Sesame Street, they were bringing up, they were like, his thumbprint is still on everything. Every decision we make now, every new design, you can still see his impact there. And so they loved it too, that we were from here. One of their licensing directors kept telling us that she wanted to fly down here just to be able to drive up to the Mississippi Delta and see where Jim Henson got the inspiration for characters like Kermit the Frog. So that's a really cool alignment as well.
Yeah, very cool. One of the things I love about, and I want to really get y'all to talk from the beginning, when y'all met and when you decided to do this and everything else. But I'll just say that to kind of tie into the Sesame Street deal, I love success, and I'm always interested on what makes people successful and what makes big breaks for people and everything else. And my cousin's a guy named Dave Ramsey, does radio shows and everything. And he and I were talking about this, and he said, sometimes you throw things against the wall, and if they don't stick, you don't fall in love with them. You kind of move on to the next thing. But what happened with y'all was a little bit different, on the fact that I think a lot of people would have missed the opportunity that y'all took, because they wouldn't have seen it as an opportunity. I mean, y'all literally you created a really cool, kind of a neat novelty product, which I think is just incredible technology that y'all did. The throw it in a drink, it lights up. That's pretty neat. But when you get a letter from a mom who uses your product to help a child, that's gold. And but y'all acted on it and you pivoted. And tell us a little bit about that process, because I think a lot of people would have missed that. They would have said, oh, that's nice, and continue going down the path they were going.
Well, I think that's where the importance of the community and the support that we've had comes in, really. I mean, as you mentioned, we got started in the MSU Center for Entrepreneurship. And so one of the most vital resources we got from that was just this huge resource of guidance and wisdom. There are all of these successful entrepreneurs from the state of Mississippi that are all over the world now, and all of a sudden the E-Center had a way to connect us with them, and so they were giving us all of this advice. And one thing that we were hearing all the time was just not to put on blinders. They were like, don't get so much tunnel vision that you miss other opportunities and options to pivot. And so if we hadn't had people telling us stuff like that, then we might have been a lot more blind to it. And so when the letter came in, it was a mom who had used the technology. She got it served into her drink at a restaurant, and she thought about her son who has autism. He was 4 years old, and he was terrified of the bath, which is a pretty common trend for children on the autism spectrum throughout their early years, but even sometimes into their teen and early adult years as well. And the reason why is it's just an overstimulation of the senses. You know, they're
Right.
contained, the temperature, it's loud, and it can cause them to just sort of panic. And so there's a lot of research behind if you can redirect those senses to something that they associate with as a positive, it can help them overcome that overstimulation. And so we obviously didn't know that at the time, but when we saw that letter, and obviously having the guidance we did, we were touched by it, of course. But then we started asking ourselves, you know, are there other children that have this issue, or is this a singular thing for this child? And if so, how many of them are there? And then we started asking the broader question of, you know, is this something that there could be some use for any children? And so then we started figuring out and learning about the niche that is sensory play within early childhood development, which any parent hearing this would be laughing at us because they're talking about sensory play and sensory development all the time. And so we found uses for it in classrooms and for all children kind of in that age range. But I mean, really having the guidance to remind us not to put on those blinders is the reason we were able to see some opportunity there. So really all of the success can be tied back to the E-Center and SU and the Starkville community. I mean, we have just been way fortunate to be surrounded by the support that we have.
Tell us I want you both to tell me a little bit about yourselves personally, how you chose Mississippi State, how you chose to do what you do, and then how you decided to start working together and to be able to create this company.
Yeah, it's an interesting road for me personally. I've always, loved engineering and STEM in general. So in high school, I had a little computer company, and I never planned on going to Mississippi State, but I got a really good scholarship. It was close to home. I grew up in
Yeah.
Columbus, and I told my parents, that they shouldn't expect to see me until I come home for Christmas because I wanted to feel like I was further away. But anyway, I came to State and fell in love with it. Met a lot of good friends. Joined the eco car team here. Really got involved in automotive engineering. That was really what I wanted to do. So studied electrical engineering here at Mississippi State. Actually went off and had an internship at Tesla Motors out in California. And right around that time is when Glow was kind of starting up. We had just, I'd created this little liquid circuit for Glow, and it turned into a thing at the E-Center kind of while I was away. So I'd 3D print things out in California, ship them back, and they would present on them at the E-Center while I was away for the summer. So the E-Center and Glow kind of like found me in a way. I was there from the beginning, but it was not what I expected to do in life. And so at the end of that summer, it was pursue automotive engineering or come back and make light up ice cubes. And I chose to come back and make light up ice cubes. So.
Yeah, and so a little about me. I'm also from Mississippi. I'm from a really small town in South Mississippi called Monticello. I always tell people Brookhaven. They typically know where that is. But my stepdad, John Catt, he was always really involved in the Alumni Center. He loved MSU. I think he sent me to my first day of kindergarten wearing MSU gear. And so I always loved State. And so whenever I decided to come here, mine was a little different being from a small town. I didn't have a lot of exposure to STEM. I loved the major that I ended up having at State, but I'd never realized that I would be so interested in things like engineering and emerging technology really until I got to MSU. And when I became kind of an upperclassman, I found the E-Center, and I was like, I had no idea I'd be interested in these things. And they were like, who cares? We'll meet you right where you are. If you want to learn how to code, if you want to learn about software, if you want to learn about woodworking or hardware, whatever it is, they were like, we don't care if your major was business. We don't care if you're from a small town. We'll meet you right where you are and figure out how to forge some sort of path for you there, which is really remarkable. I always say that Eric Hill and Jeffrey Rupp, who are the two directors, and Dean Oswald, who's the dean of the College of Business, they are just all playing the long game here. Like they are doing things that 10 and 15 and 20 years down the road, the whole state will see the impact of. So I got involved in the E-Center on a separate project. I was working on a separate little tech project in the E-Center. Met Hagan kind of right as they were kicking off too, and we just became really good friends. But the project I was working on kind of had a longer timeline, and so when I graduated, Hagan had obviously decided to stay and pursue this. I was graduating and wanted to stay in the startup setting, wasn't quite there with myself. And so Eric set us both down and he was like, hear me out. You're already friends. Like we already know that you work well together. I always say all my weak points are really Hagan's strengths and vice versa. And so we complement each other really well in that. And so Eric brought up, he was like, what you two should do is partner together on this and see where you can take it. And so that was like one day after graduation. And so we've been working on it ever since. So it was just the two of us at first in a tiny little like 700 square foot office. And then that summer is obviously when we heard from the mother of the autistic child and started looking into possibly having a product in the children's space, and it all kind of took off from there.
It's been amazing, the reception that the product has received. And I mean, the credits to you too, because a lot of people don't understand being an entrepreneur is a lot more than creating a good product, because you have to be good at marketing. You have to have a sense of accounting. You have to know how to run a business. You have to do shipping. I mean, I'm getting a master's in entrepreneurial journalism. I mean, I can draw pictures all day long. It's just suddenly having to use in the left brain is a little bit harder because I can use the right brain all day long. Talk a little bit about the process and the learning process on taking a startup idea from a seed to growing it now into a full company that's got to keep Sesame Street happy.
Well, yeah, it's fun. I always tell people the day that I don't learn anything new is the day that I want to do something else. And you just learn so much. It's amazing how much you can learn by having a startup. But the other side of that, and it's what Anna kind of spoke to earlier, is we call it being teachable. You really have to keep that open mindset, and you really have to know that you want to not be the smartest person in the room, which is very easy to do when you're in a startup, because there are tons of people out there that are in the fields that are way smarter than you, and you just want to surround yourself with those people and listen to what they have to say, the good and the bad feedback, and really make changes off of that. So the other thing is, it's crazy how much knowledge is out there in very specified fields that you just don't learn until you get to that spot. So stumbling blocks of actually starting a business, and that's gotten a whole lot easier here in Mississippi. But, stumbling blocks of, oh, you want to get stuff shipped from overseas? That's, it seems easy. And then you find out that you have to have an import code with Customs and Border Protection, or your items get seized and they take money away from your bank account, which has happened because they didn't realize what we were trying to import. So so there's a lot of little nuances that you have to figure out. But that makes it sound daunting. When you take it one day at a time, you listen to people, you surround yourself with people that are willing to help you, like a lot of Mississippians are. You can find yourself in a really good spot. And I think it puts us at an advantage over a lot of places sometimes.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was to say the typical like startup issues are one thing, but then like just the practical things that you learn from having a career, a whole career, to find out that is a little challenging of being young. We talk about all the time. We had no idea how hard it was to manage people. I mean, people receive feedback differently. People are encouraged completely differently. And so, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've even had to tell, some of our team members here, like, I'm learning with you. I mean, we make mistakes every day just because, I refer a lot to Eric. I actually worked in the East Center as a student worker as well. So I refer to him a lot as being a good manager, because he was also working with a lot of people that were close to his age. And really our student jobs and interns were really kind of the only experience we had to lean back on as far as what a good manager looks like. And so even some of the more practical parts like that you know of and you think would be easier with running a business are challenging. And it's kind of like a fast track of getting to learn all of these things that we would kind of get to soak up normally just within a career. And having a lot of people that we're surrounded by a lot of people with a lot of grace to let us learn those things.
Yeah.
How big's your staff now?
We're at 22.
22.
Yeah.
Does that include the 2 4-legged members of your staff?
It doesn't. And thankfully, they're asleep, so you can't hear their tippy taps all over the office.
I have that effect on people. That's awesome. But I mean, talk about that, because when you started, it was just you two, correct? And then you grew from that point. How do you make the decision of, oh, I need this person to do this or do that, the other? And I guess it just comes down to the fact that you just, like you said, you need that expertise, and you finally get to the point where you can hire that expertise.
Yeah, it's interesting because you start out, very little about a lot of things. And so you want to hire people that know more than you do, but then you're
Yeah.
managing those people. So it's a very interesting situation. Like our sales director, Anna and I are in our 20s and our sales director is in his 40s. And so, and has a wealth of experience. And it's interesting sometimes, because just that dynamic, it's just unusual,
Yeah.
and so you have that kind of thing, that side of stuff, but we prefer it that way. We want to hire people that know things that we don't, so that we're creating a cohesive company, right? we don't
Yeah.
we don't want to have blinders in certain
Yeah.
areas. So um we started, you start young. We knew we needed a product. The next thing we knew, we needed sales, so we hired a salesperson. And then, the next thing was kind of marketing, and so Anna filled a lot of that role and created most of the brand assets behind the Globe House.
Wow.
In her spare time, she taught herself Adobe, like all the Creative Cloud stuff, Photoshop. She was trying to do like stuff in Photoshop that should have been done in Illustrator, and then learned how to use Illustrator. And so
We don't know how we got any first customers.
Yeah.
Like our like first customer, we went to Atlanta Market when we first decided to go into the kids industry without a product. Like we had a booth and
It was actually, on that note, we had this whole wall that I had built out of pallets because we were poor. And so I bought pallets and one thing of really dark stain to hide a bunch of the imperfections. And we kind of went with this, look. And we had our first shipment of boxes for the product to go in, but we didn't, the package, but we didn't have any products. So we had these rows of products on these shelves, but only we had fake products in just the first box. Everything else was empty.
So if you look behind it, it's all empty packaging. Yeah. And so we're showing people very like conceptualized, like this is how the product's gonna look, but you couldn't really like hold it and feel it. And I remember someone came like at that night and had taken one of them, and then you could see all the empty packaging. We were like, but we had, it's just amazing. It's truly the story of this entire like life cycle of Glow is we have just been surrounded by a lot of grace and support. Even those people, like those aren't, those were retailers from all over the nation. I think that's where we met Nordstrom, and it's before we even had a product. And these people that, some of these smaller retailers from all over the country and in Canada, who also had small businesses and local toy shops and gift shops, they just really got behind and had aligned core values with us, and they really got behind what we were trying to accomplish, even if that meant that there were some bumps along the way. And so, we would bump into a huge manufacturing issue, or we'd have a major delay or something, and we were just always so shocked by the amount of patience and grace that we were extended. And I kept referring to that for our community here in Starkville, but we've really just been extended that the whole way. I mean, it's really remarkable the amount of support we've received. Like in a startup setting, you think about this really competitive landscape. It's like very Silicon Valley, and you can't trust anybody, and it's all like sharks and venture capitalists, and you are constantly worried about your competition. And we have been so fortunate to like truly have kind of the exact opposite of that. We get to build a company in an atmosphere where everybody's cheering us on. Like everybody wants us to win, like in our community, and that is, I mean, that's remarkable, and it's the reason we've had the success that we have.
And one more point on that, I think something that really helped us when we went to market and we were trying to debut the Globe House for the first time, we just, Anna and I have a very like, one of our biggest core values is transparency. And so from the very beginning, like I think that's kind of found its way into some of the company culture, and we're transparent with everybody. We have a board up on our wall that shows company revenue. It shows a bunch of different key performance indicators, a little bit because I'm a nerd, but a lot because I want every single person in the company to realize how what they do affects the bottom line. So that's internally. We have an open book policy on everything. And then with customers, if we have a delay or there's, something that we messed up, we really try to call them, tell them what's going on. And I think it's worked very well for us, but I think just being honest and transparent in general really kind of creates a difference.
Yeah.
You don't get that in a corporate world a lot. So I think people really love to see that.
Yeah.
I'm about to say, I think your story is so good. And I know that, like you said, I can only imagine the anxiety of going to market, like you said, for that first time with your first product and you've never done it before. But I think if people see that you're open and you're honest and you're humble, I mean, like you said, that's so rare these days. It was like, okay, now what can we do to help you? And you seem to have found people all along the way to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, Anna actually met Sesame Street at one of these markets, and I think one of the reasons they liked us so much is because we were a small and aspiring toy brand. So
Yeah.
It wasn't that first market. We were definitely
no,
further along.
this was a later market.
This was in October of 2019 at Dallas. But so our partnership with Sesame Street, we're going to finally launch the product on April 5th, and so we're starting out with Elmo and one of their newest Muppets, which is Julia. And then we have a second launch that comes later this year, and it adds a bunch of other characters from the street. But we're starting off with them because Julia is one of their newest Muppets. She is a 4-year-old monster, and she has autism. And
Well, Anna, don't you think that, I mean, and I always talk about God moments where, you know, these things happen. And I look back on my career where I've had these moments where I just walked into a situation and the timing was perfect. But here you had Sesame Street, they created that new character right about the time when you got that letter. I mean, it's like the timing on this thing has just been perfect and y'all seized on it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know it. I mean, but they were really releasing her right as we were hearing back from that mom, and then years later we end up meeting them. And you're exactly right. Like it was just, you know, call it a God moment, call it, you know,
Kismet or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, whatever you call it, the timing was just perfect there. And so everything that we thought would be a disadvantage there really was an advantage. So we thought, why would we ever think that Sesame Street would want to talk to us when we're so small and they work with the biggest companies in the world for partnerships? But with Julia, you actually, I mean, most people haven't seen many of her products because they've been incredibly protective of her imagery, and it's because of the sensitive nature of it.
I think we're one of 3 licensees for Julia.
Yeah, and the other 2, I think someone does a plushie, and there are some Band-Aids out with her on it. But like,
that's
really,
that's amazing.
Yeah, they told us kind of up front. They said you know, it's a sensitive nature, and Sesame Workshop, which owns Sesame Street, is actually a nonprofit, and so they were like, when we're discussing this thing that really we've just in the past 2 decades started to learn more about, they've been incredibly protective over how they release products about her. And so whereas we thought us not being a big corporation would be to our disadvantage, that was really what they were attracted to there. They loved that, you know, when they were talking, they were always talking to Hagan and I, and directly to any of our designers or artists. And so when we flew up to New York a few months later and we're finalizing our contract, they actually said, you know, we've been hesitant about how to license her, and as we're, you know, just starting to get into licensing her out as that her part of the brand, one of the parts that we love the most is that you guys were smaller and everything was so thoughtful and carefully done. Like as soon as we came back, I watched all of our episodes, and I ordered the books. Any book that she was in, I ordered and read. And I mean, they loved that. They like loved that we knew that her dog was named Rose, and that she had a brother and 2 parents that she got last year, and that she has a stuffed bunny named Fluffster. And you know, they really love those things, and like that ended up being really why we got the partnership with them. And so this whole product line, even after we, you know, add on at the latter half of the year with the second round, it's all focusing on their autism initiative, and their messaging of seeing amazing in every child. And so that's their See Amazing initiative for Julia. Is the messaging behind it is that if you could try to see the world from her point of view, then you would see amazing in every child. And so it's a real honor to get to be tied in with that message, and to be trusted with something that is so precious and that is so sensitive in nature as with a topic like this.
Oh, as a parent, I completely agree 1,000% on that. Yeah, I really hope, and I know you have plenty on your plate already, but I hope that you're both keeping a journal of this whole odyssey, because y'all have already dropped a bunch of wisdom in the last 25 minutes or so. And I was going to say on that wisdom, if you get it, and I know you probably go out in the community and you probably talk with a lot of kids and so forth, But if you get a chance to talk to maybe a freshman in high school in Mississippi that thinks, and I'm thinking about my own children. I've got 3 boys as well, and one's 20, one's 18, and one's 13. So my wife and I would love them to stay to Mississippi because we'd like to see our grandchildren. That's kind of the ultimate goal down the road. But what advice would you give a 9th grader in Mississippi about their education, about their life, about what they can do to give back to Mississippi and to make this a better place?
Anna and I actually talked to a couple hundred teachers last week on a Zoom conference, and we were, it was a high school like STEM project, and Anna and I have very different experiences going through high school in Mississippi. Mine, I had some really supportive teachers, and we had a little bit of a STEM program, so I was able to figure, kind of what my interests were before coming to college, and Anna candidly didn't have that same experience. But I think it's really important to know what you can accomplish. And, I think that it's important to not only see that, and there's a lot of hard work and stuff that goes into this, and who knows, tomorrow, I don't want to say this, but tomorrow could be a really bad day, and things don't work out for Glow. But you've got to realize that there are supportive people, and you really need to find those teachers that are passionate, that care, that want to teach you, and really look for the things that inspire you. That was what I kind of followed all along in the tech field and stuff. But you got to find those things that really interest you and that you really want to hone in on and figure out more about. So I think it's a couple of things. You kind of have to be agnostic of your background. You can't look back. Like I have a parent that never went to college, and so you can't really think about the economics and stuff. Just think about you and what you're good at, and think about how that could benefit people going forward.
I think what's benefited both of us a lot, and something that we still try to remember, or try to remind each other at least to do, is this sense of curiosity. I think on the part about the advice for their education, but then also for how they can find opportunities to stay in the state, for your professional career. I think if you have this sense of wonder and curiosity, and question things, and want to know, if you don't have a career path right in front of you that you want, could you make your own? I think that a lot of that stems from curiosity. And a cool part about being in a college town is you kind of like continue to stay a student. We're still very involved with the university. Over that way, you can't see it on the camera. There's a huge it's that Mark Keenum sent to us just last week.
Yeah.
And so
the president of the university sent us a gift, which is so nice.
Yeah, forgive our boxes. But that was the first publication talking about our partnership with Sesame Street. It was in the Delta Business Journal. And Mark Keenum has so many things to do. He's operating a university in a pandemic when there's social distancing, and there's just so much going on. And he saw that article, and he stopped, and he got it framed and sent over to us. And there's a letter sitting on my desk from Delbert Hoseman, who's of course the lieutenant governor. And so, we just get to be surrounded by the support in our local community. We get to kind of stay in that student mentality by being here with the school. And so, I think like having that sense of curiosity to ask, where are the opportunities in state, and also the things that maybe I want to change, how could I change them? I think that that's just really important. And it also makes you continue to ask questions like, could we use this product in the kids industry instead? Yeah. So I think it's really important to ask a lot of questions and to stay really curious.
Yeah, let me unpack a couple things there. Number one, Dr. Keenum is a rock star.
He's amazing.
He really is. I mean, the guy's just, Dr. Zacharias back in the day was fantastic too. And I never thought that Mississippi State would ever get anybody that could rival Dr. But Mark is fantastic. And also too, I've got Whitman's quote back here behind me, be curious, not judgmental.
Oh yes, I just saw it over your shoulder. I didn't even see that before. That's
yeah, cool. so definitely, of course, that was given to me by watching Ted Lasso, but that's another story there for another day. But I think you're right. I think that I love what you're doing. I mean, I love your company. I love your mission. I love the fact that you give back part of your profits to Blair Batson, which I think is wonderful. And don't you think that's a really wonderful business? I always, you don't want to sound crass. It's like a business strategy to give back to the community, but it's just good business.
Yeah, and we partnered with
Yeah.
Batson halfway through 2018. So we
Yeah.
really entered the kids market at the start of 2018, started shipping the Glow Pals in March, and we knew that we wanted some element of giving back. And we looked at some national organizations, some centered around autism, some different children's hospital. And like I said, we had just made the move into the office we were in before this temporary space, and then the Rex, and we knew we were going to stay in Mississippi. And we were both educated in Mississippi. We were raised here. Now we're growing a business here. And so I think it just kind of hit us one day. We were like, doesn't it make the most sense to first show our support to the wellness and the growth and the health of our own state's smallest patients? And so we partnered with them then. So we just about 2.5 years we've been working with them, and we've given over $50,000 so far. And so
Wow.
yeah, we love Batson. We love the work they're doing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's from all the great small businesses that have supported us as well. But we love what Children's of Mississippi is doing as a whole. They're doing amazing work. They are serving children in every single county across the state and from other states as well. And so we get letters often from someone. So, sometimes they'll be in a completely different state, and they'll write to us about their child who received a procedure at Batson, and how, what a difference that made when they saw it on the side of the packaging. And so, so it's amazing. That's another thing that we are just incredibly honored to be able to put a drop in the bucket of giving to them.
Well, it's one thing I've discovered in my 25 years here in Mississippi, because I am a newcomer, is that when you do things on a national level and national scale, people here in the state are incredibly proud of you. And I know people are incredibly proud of what you're doing. And I was really impressed. I don't want to take too much more of your time, because I know that you've still got to take care of the baby and get ready to, the baby as in the company, and get ready and move and so forth. But I just want to say, before we go, I just want to say, do you have any last thoughts or any advice you want to give the rest of us out here that are, not quite entrepreneurs, but we'd like to be? Or
I think something I would like to say is, brain drain in Mississippi is a real thing. It is. And I think the sooner that people realize that, the sooner that we can get back on our feet. But I really hope that someone out there watching this knows that and chooses to stay here in the state. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of people that want to help. And it really can be beneficial. And so, knowing all of that, knowing where Mississippi is, it's going to take a group of people to come together to really try to right the ship and keep some of our talent here. We have world-renowned institutions that people come to for college and then immediately leave the state and take that talent elsewhere. And that's a problem we've got to fix. And the sooner that we recognize that, and the sooner we can get some of those people to stay here, the better Mississippi will be.
Amen.
I completely agree. We say it a lot. I think there's really has never been a cooler time to be a Mississippian. I was born in Jackson. I've been raised in Mississippi all my life. Went to school at state. I studied international business and was always planning to have a career path that would not only put me out of the state, but pretty far away. And so this was certainly not what I planned as well. But it is a cool and interesting and dynamic time to be a part of what is going on in Mississippi. There is an entire kind of movement. I said, we were saying, we're like, man, it kind of feels like we're all on the same page for the first time. Everyone is seeing this, and there's this startup culture and kind of entrepreneurial wave that is really kind of the undercurrent across the state. There's stuff happening in Jackson and Oxford on the coast, and here in Starkville. And I keep saying that I really think in 10 years, particularly Starkville, I think will be a kind of a little startup hub for the South. The E-Center and the university and the town are all doing amazing things for entrepreneurs, or for anybody that's even interested in entrepreneurship. And so, try to find some sort of foothold where you can be a part of that, because I think that we're on an amazing trajectory as a state. And I think that 10, 20 years from now, we'll see kind of the effect that our universities have had, that all of the local businesses have had on the state's economy, and it's a really cool time to be a part of it.
Okay, and you guys have completely accomplished what somebody my age tries to do. We always try to, we graduate, we go out, we make our career, and then we try to get back to college so that we could, we buy a condo or whatever so we could go to football games. By golly, you're right there. So I have envy on that as well. I thank you, and congratulations on all the success. And like I said, here at Mississippi Today, we are kind of like, we believe the same things that you just said. We really do a lot of writing about brain drain and so forth. But if there's any way I personally can ever help, let me know too on what y'all are doing on that front. Because I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, I want opportunity for my kids. I used to make fun of things because that's what I did as my cartoonist. And then when I started having kids, I realized, I want the state to be better because I want them to have a better Mississippi. And I appreciate what you're doing to make this a better Mississippi. And thank you for taking the time with us today to talk.
For sure. We'll have to come visit us when we move into our new location. So we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, come up for one of those football or baseball games that you were mentioning.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. I've got to point out with the pandemic, being editor-at-large, my job is to go around and speak, which by the way, I love going to Columbus, and I have spoken in Monticello, and it's at the old high school. I think it was right there.
It's so funny. I was going to mention this to you just at the end whenever we got off this, I was going to call you back to tell you. You spoke, it just connected with me when we first started talking. You had an event at the Civic Center Monticello.
That's right.
I was one of the servers. Like, they got several high schoolers.
You're kidding me.
Yes, and I have a picture with you.
Oh, no way. Oh, no way.
Funny.
They picked
funny.
It was like, I don't think it was student council. It was some sort of like organization or something. They got volunteers to serve, to serve the food and the drink and stuff. And I was one of them. And then we wanted a picture with you so bad, and I'm pretty sure you signed something for me. And that just came to me when I first started talking. And that is that's such a funny connection. And that was it. I was like 17 or 16 at the time, but. Yeah.
And so I'm glad I wasn't a complete jerk.
No, you were so nice, and everyone was so happy there. And I knew about your cartoons.
Yeah, because I could have turned this interview totally the wrong direction. By the way, you were totally mean to me when I was a kid, and I hate your guts. Like, no.
You were not very nice to the waiters and the staff. You ought to be nice to the server. No, you were wonderful. You were wonderful and entertaining. And it was like a great crowd, and we don't get a lot of events like that in Monticello. So I can't remember what you were there for, but it was at the Civic Center, which used to be, I think decades ago, it was the old high school. So that's so funny that you brought that up.
It was cool. It was a great day. It was a pretty town. Everybody was super nice. So I just thought I'd bring that up, and lo and behold, we know each other. That's Mississippi, though. There's 2 degrees of separation.
That's right.
And if you make somebody mad, you've made half the state mad. So you got to be careful.
You'll hear about it again for sure. Now I'll find that picture and I'll send it to you, and it's going to make you laugh.
That's very cool. And I'll post that too. And I'll put that in with this. And I just want to say thanks again. And like I said, what y'all are doing is really cool. It really is. And I do appreciate you taking this much time to talk, and we'll be back in touch. What's y'all's website? Just throw it out there so folks can check you out.
Globepals, GLOPALS.
Okay, I actually knew that, but I just wanted you to say it. So
yeah.
I did do my homework. Y'all take care. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything, and good luck with the move.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.